back in the shed. So it has been a while since I've made an actual car video. I've just been so busy with other stuff that I haven't had a chance to even look at the cars. So I haven't actually driven this thing since New Year's. It's been sitting there, and Easter's coming up real fast, and I've got a little bit of prep work to do. So that's what we're doing today. I've been flat out with stuff around the house, and I've been flat out mountain biking as well. I'm quite enjoying that. And without needing to do too much to these cars this year, there's just not that much shed content that I can make. So last year, the shed content sort of carried the channel for weeks and weeks. So I put shed content out because I was changing so much. But yeah, this year I don't really have that much to do other than a few bits and pieces. So yeah, the content might be a bit of a funny schedule. But anyway, we'll make do with what we've got. We're still going away at Easter, obviously. And then straight after Easter, we're into wild dog prep, because wild dogs, basically, Oddie's a month after Easter. So as soon as we come back from Easter, it'll be race car prep for wild dog, and all that wild dog stuff's still going to go ahead. And hopefully a couple other races after that, but we'll see what happens with the racing schedule and what events they're going to run. But yeah, I still plan on doing a bit of driving. Lately, I'm just not willing to pay the money for the fuel. It's ridiculous. So I'm not spending that much money just to go for a drive. But through winter, yeah, we'll still be doing a bit of driving. So with that being said, today, what I've got to do, well, hopefully today, probably take more than one day. I've had a delivery from the guys down at Roadrunner Off-Road, of course, to where I buy everything. Super easy to deal with, plenty of good stuff. That's where you get your good stuff from. So I've got 4 new rod ends, because I found that all the rod ends on the tie rod and drag link are pretty flogged out. They've been on there for probably 6 or 7 years, I suppose. So it's time to change them. Got a bit of movement in them. And then I've just got these braided brake lines that go from the calipers to the hard lines at the end of the diff here. All 4. So I'll replace all them. And yeah, I just got it. The brakes aren't as good as they are in the race car. So I'm just trying to get the bottom of that and get the brakes working Mickey Mouse. I've also finally got a sway bar to put in, sitting in the back there. So we're doing a rear sway bar and a adjustable rear panhard, because the panhard in the back here is one that I've made years ago. Actually, I think a mate made it, to be honest, probably 10 years ago. So it's time to put an adjustable one in just to square up the back. It's about 15 mil off from memory, but I'll have to double check that. So we've got to do that. And I've just got to give it a general check over, oils, waters, give it a clean out, just everything, nut and bolt check, all the good stuff that you do before you do a trip. And then the car should be ready to go. I did plan on having a new turbo and manifold and all that stuff before we went to Easter, but I just haven't had time to do anything, so that's not going to happen. But I still plan on doing that at some stage. I'm going to use the same manifold, just get a new one, like the factory TD low mount. Going to move to a hypergear turbo and probably a bit bigger gate, maybe a GFB gate, and just redo that hot side section. I don't really know why, just because I like the hypergear turbo that's on my race car. I like what it does, so I want that on this. Righto, well that's enough crap talking. Let's get into some jobs, because I want to get this done. Well, it seems the old Ozpost has stitched me up. Someone's got a free rod end out there. Inspect these often. You can see this rubber boot is absolutely buggered, and if you pull down on it, you probably won't see, but it has a fair bit of up and down movement in the ball joint itself. Same with this one. Yeah, time to change them out. So we'll get into that. What I'm going to do to make it super easy is put a mark on the end and the rod, and then count how many turns out, and then do the same, rotate the same amount of turns in and line the marks up. So do that for both ends here on the drag link. It's not super important to get the drag link down to the millimeter. The tie rod is obviously what controls your toe in and toe out. That's the one that's super important to get right. Well, I've got a mark here, and it's only just a matter of undoing this pinch bolt, undoing this sucker. If you're old school, she's loose. If you're new school, you probably got a tool for that, but I don't. Then it's only a matter of counting how many rotations out, and then marking the same spot on the other rod end, which is an easy spot to find, just under that slit. Wind it all the way back on, drop it back in, pinch bolt back up, retainer bolt back up, and you're good to go. All right, well that's on. I've counted the same rotations in. I've slipped it through here, put the castle nut on. Don't forget to put the new split pin in. Crank this sucker down, make sure it's seated in the taper properly. It's scary, I've heard people do them up like that and then back it off and then put the split pin in. That's scary, don't do that. So crank these up. They've got a specified torque, but I just send it home. I'm gonna leave these loose for now. And when I do this one, I'll leave it loose. Then I can center up both rod ends and then do these pinch bolts up. Because if one rod end's, you know, cocked that way and the other one's cocked the other way, then they're gonna be fighting each other. So just centralize each ball joint to the end that it's sitting on and then do these pinch bolts up and you'll be laughing. Also, a bit of never sees or grease is always good on these threads in here, just so if you have to adjust it one day, you know it's gonna be hopefully freer than it would be if it was rusted in there. So I'll put a bit of grease in here and then a bit of never sees in here. And do not forget to grease these up. These need grease, and pretty often, you know, I grease them up nearly every time it's on the hoist. Just put a bit of grease in this nipple here. But from new like they are now, make sure you pack them full of grease. All right, I'm gonna do that another 3 times. Well, 2 times, thank you, Ozpost. But I've spoken to the guys at Roadrunner and they're gonna send one out ASAP and sort that out for me. So that's really good. But yeah, I'm gonna finish doing that and then we'll get on to some other jobs. And when you're doing rod ends, don't forget that one of them's left-hand thread and one of them's right-hand thread. So one of them's lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. The other one is lefty-tighty, righty-loosey. So don't forget that. They do have an L and an R written on them. So if it's got an L written on it, left-hand thread. Well, because I like to carry spares, I found one. So this was in my drawers. I actually kind of forgot that I carry a left and right rod end in my drawers. So I've got another left one. I've got the right one, and then when the other one comes, because of Australia Post, I'll just restock me redraw, which is super easy because then I can get it all done. All right, well, now I'm going to install this sway bar and rear panhard. The sway bar I'm currently running is none, and that's because the right-hand mount broke off the chassis, which is pretty common if you put a heavier sway bar in it. So the sway bar I've gone with is a Superior one. I haven't had a sway bar for a little while because I just didn't know what sway bar I was going to put in. I did like the 24mm heavy duty one that picked up the standard mounts. It actually handled pretty good with that. Now, I've only got one concern with this. So the maximum you can fit on the diff mounts in the D brackets there is 24mm. So this one's obviously 24mm as well. But having longer arms means it's more leverage on the sway bar, which means it's easier to twist it. So I'm a little bit concerned that it's not going to be as stiff as I like it. The other one, like I said, the other one was pretty good. But anyway, time will tell. It was either that or go to a torsion bar style, and I really don't want to put a torsion bar style on this because it just adds more stuff back there. It's pretty hard to do, and it's not really hard to do, but it's a little bit of stuffing around to do on the wagon, and I just don't really want to do that. So anyway, we'll see how this Superior one goes. If that's no good, then I'll decide what to do after that. But fingers crossed that does what I want it to do. So I thought I'd just actually quickly drag it out, and you can see the if you line them up, you know, there's probably 150mm difference in the arm length there, and yeah, that allows more leverage, which means it's easier to twist. So anyway, that's my only concern. Other than that, looks quality stuff. Most of the stuff there is pretty quality, Superior stuff. So anyway, we'll whack that in, and at the end of the day, no matter what sway bar I put in it, it's going to be better than the one I'm running now, because honestly, it's been painful to drive with no sway bar. I don't know how people do it. Driving without sway bars sucks real bad. I can't find where I put the D brackets onto the diff. I thought they were bolted onto the diff, but then I lifted it up and realised they're not bolted to the diff, and now I can't find them. Well, the sway bar's in. It's a little bit tricky to get these back plates on. You got to go through this hole in the chassis, and then you got to hold both and get a bolt in, so it's easier if
somebody helps you with that one. But looks pretty good. Don't forget to grease your links as well. Pretty straightforward installation though. Rear panel is also installed. One thing to remember with these is to do these end bolts up before you do these lock nuts up. So that's one thing to remember. But so I've just come for a cruise up the windies just to see how this sway bar feels, and yeah, it feels 100 times better than no sway bar. But just like I thought, it doesn't feel as stiff as the other 24mm one I had in there, which is to be expected. But yeah, it seems to work pretty well. It'll be a good test next time I go out the bush and see how it really goes. Also, it feels a lot nicer to steer with the new rod ends, and it seems to have solved. I had this little clunk in the front that I was chasing for a little while, and then yeah, when I found that the rod end was that flogged out, and now that I've changed it, you know, that's sorted that clunking noise out. So yeah, steers a lot better, doesn't body roll, and overall pretty good. I've still got to do the brake lines, but they're pretty self-explanatory, and I'll just do them when I get a chance. I've run out of time today, so the brake lines and then just little stuff to do before Easter, like nothing worth filming. So yeah, next week we've got something cool coming up, so keep an eye out for that, and then the videos after that will be Easter. So apologise for the lack of uploading, but I've just been too busy. So unfortunately, when I run out of time, YouTube takes a back seat. So we'll see you on the next one.